question everything. Without the question, how can you have the answer? Wisdom comes from within. This is high-level heresy.
Greetings, fellow Earthlings. My name is Zach.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is
High-Level Heresy.
Thank you. Far too kind. We are so excited to be here today.
Partially in part because this is the first recording of our first episode of our first podcast ever.
And today's episode is brought to you by High Level Design Salon and Barbershop,
which we are the proud owners of. It's tucked away in a nice little cozy cornfield in Pendleton, Indiana. Zach and I first started High Level Design in downtown Fishers off of 116th and 69, and that was in July of 2017. So we were there about 6 years in total, about 5.5 years prior to or after being there. That's when the landlord came in and said that they were paving paradise to put up a parking lot, and we knew we were going to have to go. So that's when we decided to combine our shop and our home situation and have the shop on the property. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I don't know if you remember, Zach, but before my dad passed.
R.I.P. Mr. Tom.
Thank you. He had called out of the blue and said, I had a vision that you guys bought a white farmhouse surrounded by farmland. And I'm not sure if I mentioned that was like about 7 or 8 years ago, but it was prior to us even thinking about this journey. So that is kind of what spurred us and prompted us to move forward with that decision. I've been a hairstylist for about 20 years. Actually, April will be 20 years that I have been in the beauty industry, and just working with people for 20 years one-on-one, you begin to see patterns, and we have conversations with our clients that lead to asking questions. And Zach, you've been in the industry for how long now?
I've been in the industry for going on 10 years now.
10 years. So also, those kind of conversations you wouldn't think that men get quite as deep, but they do get into, and since Zach spends at least an hour on his clients and with intricate detail for those fresh fades, you do get into some information and some conversations that we begin to see, as I mentioned, patterns developed. We've had questions asked of us. We've had people say, that should have been a podcast conversation, which is partially why we decided to go ahead and start taking it to the streets.
Taking it to the streets.
But we are very excited. Heresy. Let's talk about heresy. Why high-level heresy? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, let's unpack that name. Obviously, high-level heresy.
We spelled it H-A-I-R, partially, in fact, because we are in the beauty industry. And in the beauty industry, in Cosmo School, they tell you, don't talk about religion or politics with your clients. It can create tension, and we definitely break that rule.
Yeah, we... kind of a rule in the shop, not a rule, but a way that we do things is that there's no judgment, that pretty much no topic is off limits. We talk about everything, and then we hear that consistently too. At least I know I do, is clients that'll say, man, I look forward to coming in here because, like, not just for the cut, but the conversation. And a lot of them say that this is one of the only places that they're able to talk about some things.
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't call it a therapist for not just any reason. Oh, thank you.
Oh, boy.
So the other part of heresy, Zach and I both grew up in the church, and a lot of the ideas, the questions that we ask, in our environment, it was, you don't ask questions. If you have a question, like, it doesn't matter. This is what God said. And this is how it goes. And that spans into our normal everyday lives, at our work. It doesn't matter. This is how you have to do it. When we're children, we're told it doesn't matter because I said so. And I just wasn't really okay with that. So I began asking questions, and a lot of mine pertain to spirituality. And after all, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So a lot of the ideas in the church that we began to unpack and unravel, and rabbit trails we went on, some of the ideas would be considered heretical. And the definition of heresy, Heresy, the quote proper spelling, that definition says it's a belief or opinion contrary to orthodox religious doctrine.
Or more broadly, it's basically any idea or opinion that strongly challenges or contradicts the dominant or orthodox way of thinking, in a more broad sense. But typically, obviously, a lot of people associate it with more of a religious association, with going against the accepted doctrine, the accepted dogma, whatever. But so there's the obvious of why we chose that term heresy. But fun fact, with our different spelling, Hairesy, we actually just recently found that the original word heresy comes from the Greek word heresis, which actually is spelled Hairesis, which simply means choice. It originally referred to simply choosing one's own belief or school of thought, before it eventually took on the negative sense of wrong belief in the religious context. So actually, the original meaning essentially just meant choice and choosing for yourself and choosing your own belief. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Choosing what resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're to follow our hearts. Zach, can you tell us about your truth-seeking journey, when it all started? Was there anything specific that made you question what was going on?
Yeah. 9/11 was my first big kind of wake-up call in my life. Just, I was in 7th grade when it happened, and I remember, the day it happened and the days following, just a lot of things they were telling us on the news and such, it didn't make sense to me. And so yeah, that was kind of my first wake-up call.
So you started doing a little digging, and then found out that some of what you had felt didn't add up.
Right.
Actually didn't. And then how about spiritually?
Well, that goes even further back, because when I was even younger, growing up in church, there were things back then that didn't add up to me or didn't make sense. And I didn't really talk about it much. It was more kind of just things that didn't make sense to me that I questioned for years growing up. And so that's kind of originally, my spiritual journey. I started to question things, and when things didn't make sense to me. So, and then fast forward, early days of YouTube, like 2008, 2009, back when it was the Wild West.
Before all the censorship.
Correct. And that's being able to find information quick and then being able to link to other information, everything. That's when it just,
Your rabbit holes.
Yeah, my rabbit holes and all those and all the different, various things about history and such.
And conspiracies.
Oh, man. Aliens, conspiracies, Bigfoot. No,
Oh, and
that's early days. And then those start to turn into other things. And really, I'll say this concerning conspiracies. If conspiracies don't lead you back to God, you're doing it wrong.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the only difference between a conspiracy and the truth is about 30 days.
Correct. And then I met your dad. And that was, I was 18 or 19 when I started going down a lot of rabbit holes and studying and deep diving. And then 23, 24, when I met your dad for the first time. And that's just, the rest is history. I mean, he was massive for my awakening and still is to this day.
Obi-Tom Kenobi.
Obi-Tom, man. So that's the long and short of it.
Okay, so today's question of the hour is, am I really creating my reality? And what is the law of attraction? I'm not sure if any of you have heard the term law of attraction, and maybe it sounds like a new age buzzword, but it's a universal truth that can help guide and co-create your reality with our Creator, whatever that looks like to you. And sometimes we're moving forward with no purpose or direction, and we don't even realize that we're unconsciously creating our reality. So you don't like that job? Put out there, what is it that you would like? So let's get into that a little bit of let's talk about the law of attraction. But before we really dig in, I'd like to take a breath together. And wherever you are, whether you're driving, you're at work, you're sitting at home, wherever you're driving, if you have the opportunity to sigh it out when we exhale. Zach, can you give him a demonstration of a nice sigh? Oh, you can feel that resonate in your heart. I feel like sometimes it's you just feel the peace move through your body in the physical sense. So we're going to inhale on a count of 4. I will start with the word inhale. That will be your number 1. And we'll go through 4. We're going to hold for 2. And then we will exhale for 4. And if you are able, sigh it out no matter how silly you feel. And we're just going to get on the same page and kind of ground into the moment. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2. Exhale, 2, 3, 4.
Nice.
All right. Thank
I feel
you.
better.
I do too. Okay. So to define the law of attraction in simple terms, the law of attraction is the universal principle that like attracts like, meaning your thoughts and your feelings attract similar experiences and circumstances into your life. So thoughts become things. In a nutshell, thoughts become things. And I'd like to shout out to Mike Dooley, author of Leveraging the Universe, 7 Steps to Engaging Life's Magic, for that phrase. Reading this book years ago is what really brought the law of attraction and understanding how we co-create our realities into my understanding. into something that I could grasp. Everything is energy.
Everything.
That cup of coffee that you drink, that emotion that you put out, everything is energy. So what is the difference between the law of attraction and manifestation? Manifestation is the process of using focused thoughts, beliefs, and actions to bring the desired outcomes into reality. So the law of attraction is the belief. Your thoughts become things. And I'd like to say that our thoughts shape our lives, but our beliefs shape our thoughts.
That's good.
So you definitely want to begin looking at your beliefs, if you have any limiting beliefs, which we'll get into a little more about limiting beliefs and blocks to working the law of attraction. But we know that there's the framework for the law of attraction is focused intention, elevated emotion. So for that focused intention, our thoughts, Zach, can you go into the power of our thoughts and give us a little more on how we can put the law of attraction into action?
Absolutely, I can. So we'll discuss a little bit now that we have explained what the law of attraction is. We'll discuss a little bit how this is scientifically and spiritually backed. But really, at the end of the day, it's just a universal truth. So one of the simplest ways to show the power of intention, the power of your thoughts, the law of attraction, I would think it is the placebo effect. The placebo effect is pretty simple. It's been around for a long time with physicians, like the old Roman gallon of Pergamon. They just simply recognize the power of patients' expectations in their healing process. The term placebo effect didn't really officially come around until like the 1920s, but the concept has been used for a long time. So simply put, the placebo effect is when your mind essentially tricks your body into healing or improving just because you believe that a treatment's working. It's even if the treatment is fake, like a sugar pill or a saline injection, anything like that, with double-blind placebo trials and all that kind of stuff. That's like the gold standard of, testing out new pharmaceuticals and such. But in doing all of that, they've found many, many, many people that took the placebo ended up healing themselves. So that is a perfect example in a scientific way of how much power your mind has, how much power your thoughts have in regards to the law of attraction or manifestation. So that's a pretty simple example that is scientifically backed. So in other words, it's your brain becoming the medicine. Mm-hmm. And I believe that could work in any situation. I don't care what the illness is, what the disease is. I believe that this is possible really with any situation, not just your health. Obviously, that goes back to just the law of attraction in general. That pertains to everything in life. Your health, material possessions, certain things that you might want, a job, a house, whatever it is.
I think the important part of that is the belief.
The belief is the most important thing.
Many times throughout the scriptures in the Bible, Jesus says, your faith has made you well. Mm-hmm. And it's the faith that you already have what is happening, that it's already there.
Yeah, it's belief and expectation are the essential keys to this entire thing, to the law of attraction and manifestation. But they trigger real biological changes too. So it's not just all in your head. It triggers actual biological changes in your body, which then contribute to the healing in the end.
And those are like when you have dopamine release and
Yep.
the endorphins, reduced stress hormones.
Yep. Reduced cortisol. Yeah. All of that stuff. Those are real biological changes that occur when you're implementing this in your life, when you actually, your power of your thoughts with healing, with manifestation, whatever it may be, triggers actual biological changes in your body, which then, like I said earlier, contributes to manifesting whatever it is you're wanting to manifest. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says Dr. Joe Dispenza is author of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself and Becoming Supernatural. He does a lot of work with prepping the body and teaching how to heal yourself, because the body was designed to heal itself. The intelligence, he speaks on the intelligence that created the body can heal the body. And he says the only way we can change our lives is to change our energy, to change the electromagnetic field we are constantly broadcasting. So just about your thoughts, we want to give a little example. Yesterday we had gone out and I really wanted a new in the box juicer. And this is a very small, like just fun little example of, I spoke it and I said, I want a new in the box juicer for a really sweet deal, because we were going to like a flea market, Peddler's Mart. We're big fans of those. And I'm always on for a bargain. And I spoke that I wanted to find that. And we go in, I go back to this overstock section, and lo and behold, there is a $200 juicer, new in the box, for $50. And, we snagged that right up. Came home, and not only was it an amazing deal, but it also matched our kitchen, which, if you know me, the aesthetics of a space are very important to me, and it makes you feel good when your space feels good. And so that was a very fun, I spoke it, I believed I would find it, and I went and found it. I'm going to give another little example as far as health. I had gone in, and turns out I had cysts on my ovary, and they said, oh, it's not a big deal, you don't need to follow up. I felt otherwise, had a follow up, and they explained, oh, it's not a big, they might explode, or, they'll be okay. It might hurt a little bit, but you're not in any danger. I asked for a follow up in 4 months. I said, I'm going to pray and I'm going to meditate this away. And I went in recently for the follow up, and she said, well, it's almost gone. And I had believed, I knew that it would go away. I had never had any explosive pain that said, oh, this cyst ruptured. It peacefully dissolved on its own. When you put these things into practice, they do work.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
So along with your focused intention, so let's say your focused intention is to get a new job. You do not like your job. You don't like your coworkers or your surroundings or the pay. And so for the longest time, all you say is, I want a new job. I want a new job. I want a new job. I hate this job. All you're going to experience in your reality is wanting a new job.
Yep. The universe is no respecter of persons. It is kind of the law of attraction, and the power of your thoughts and intention goes both ways. So it's not always about a good thing necessarily. Sometimes you're stuck in a rut of your mind thinking, I want this thing. And you're constantly thinking of, I want this. Well, you're going to constantly be wanting this.
Agreed. I'd like to talk about the role that emotions play in the law of attraction. Emotions are energy in motion, and everything has a frequency and a vibration. When somebody says, "Oh, I don't like the vibes in there," it's not, it's true. Like, you are actually feeling the vibration, and it, if you are not liking it, is not matching your energy, the frequency that you are putting out. Maybe you had some quiet time in the morning and you meditated and you prayed and you're vibing really high and you listen to some good music, and you go in somewhere and it's anxious and everybody's stressed, and you're going to feel the immense difference between the frequency, the higher frequency and the lower frequency. Emotions of love, joy, peace, they resonate at a higher frequency. Love is between 500 and 540 hertz, and fear vibrates like around 100. You understand when you can feel, you go into a room, you go into a concert, and you have high energy and you're excited and it just makes you want to dance. And we are very affected consciously and unconsciously with vibrations and frequency. So if you, going back to the job, your focused intention is the new job. The elevated emotion behind that is, I already have, what does that new job look like? Let me sit and visualize, what kind of money do I want to make? What do I want to feel when I'm at that job? What kind of relationships do I want with my coworkers? What do I want to feel when I walk into the environment? What do I want to feel when I wake up? And begin to feel those things. And I'm going to mention a major ingredient in the law of attraction is gratitude. Gratitude for what you already have, and gratitude for what is to come. And combining those, saying, I know I already have this. So the elevated emotion, energy in these, it can be measured. So these aren't just, energy, vibes. It's not just some buzzwords. These things are measurable. The Heart Math Institute says when the heart rhythm pattern becomes more coherent, the brain synchronizes with the heart's input and begins to function more optimally. So when your heart, you go in with your heart, you connect with your heart, you think about the desires of your heart. That's another, follow your excitement. What excites you about this? When you follow your excitement, you are following what has been placed inside, like who you really are. So let's give an example. You want a job at the banana factory. You are so excited about that one, but the banana factory, that doesn't pay quite as well, and it's not logical. The banana factory isn't logical, but the strawberry company, that's logical. And so you've decided, just because you're afraid and because the money, you got to go where the money is, but that becomes stagnant. Whereas if you followed your excitement and went to the banana factory, you have no idea the doors that could have been opened because you decided to follow your excitement versus your logic.
And the excitement is that elevated emotion.
Excitement is the elevated emotion. So therefore, the universe perks up and says, oh, they've changed their frequency. They've changed their broadcast, because essentially, positive or negative, what you are broadcasting out, the frequency you are broadcasting out, it's like a radio station to the universe. What you are putting out, that is what you are getting back. What you're sowing, the seeds that you're sowing, what you're putting out, that is what you're going to get back in return. Zach, can you tell us about the water study? I don't remember. It was the Japanese doctor.
Yeah, I was Dr. Masaru Emoto. He did a series of experiments because he believed that thoughts and words and intentions, but thoughts can influence physical reality, especially water. So in his experiments, he claimed that positive words and emotions directed at this water caused the crystals, when they were frozen, to form like beautiful symmetrical patterns. So they basically just had a bunch of jars of water, and they put certain emotions towards each jar of water. And I believe they also wrote the actual word, like love, peace, joy, whatever it is. And then they also had another group of negative emotions that they aimed at these jars of water with the negative words on them, hate, anger, et cetera, et cetera. But then he also had like a control group of water that was neutral, that they hadn't done anything to. So what they did was, after they did all that, they froze all of these jars of water, and afterwards they were able to see the frozen water crystals. And like I said earlier, the positive emotion water jars they had beautiful symmetrical patterns, and conversely, the jars that they had aimed negative emotions at led to distorted, super chaotic crystal formations. So since the body is largely made of water, through these experiments, he suggested that our inner state and the energy that we project affects not only ourselves, but also the world around us. So in short, his work emphasized the fact that emotions and our consciousness has a measurable impact on matter.
And as you said, we're made of water. So if we're 70% water, imagine, just what kind of effect that's having on our being.
Yes. And just to add to that real quick, but that third group of water, just interesting, that third group of water, which was the control group, it was the neutral or untreated water. That group, when they froze it, the crystals produced like dull, incomplete, asymmetrical formations. So that's just an interesting thing that, the positive ones were nice, beautiful crystals. The negative ones were chaotic and not symmetrical. But the neutral water, the just blah water that had no positive or negative, was just dull.
So unconscious, unaware water had just nothing. So, that's also be thinking, like, if I'm unconsciously moving through life, what am I attracting to myself? What experiences what loop am I in? How do I get outside of the loop? And let's talk about that. How, you want to manifest something new. You want to put the law of attraction into practice. You are the law of attraction. It's not something you just put into practice. It's happening, and we are conscious or unconscious of it. And so we want to be aware so we can help, we can co-create.
The law of attraction is how you navigate the matrix.
So aligning our expectations with our desires is a big part of that, because we have to hold no fear when you try to live in that logical mind, and you want to, everything has to align, all my ducks have to be in a row. Your ducks cannot be in a row. You have to make the decision, whatever that decision is, whatever that focus, I'm going to go for this. And then the ducks will start aligning. The ducks will get in a row. The stars will align. You can't wait for the stars to align. You make the choice, the action step, the decision, then everything starts falling into place. And I will say, you have to allow room for miracles, you have to allow room for the universe, for God to work, because there has to be sometimes blessings look like bullshit, and you will see that you will start to see synchronicities, and something doesn't go the way you thought it should go, but that's because it needs to hit 3 other people before it aligns for you.
And that goes back into acting as if that thing has already happened, whatever it is. So you act as if you already have that, or you're already in that, whatever it is, and you don't wait for certain things to line up. The action of just getting into it and doing it produces results. What did we learn about the word fear years ago? What does that stand for?
False evidence appearing real.
Man. And fear also plays a big role in a lot of what we're talking about, because conversely, from the positive thoughts and emotions that you have and the positive intentions, fear can just unravel all of that. If you start to have fear that you're not going to acquire that thing or get that job or whatever it is, that's going to unravel all of the work you've just done. Fear, is puts you into a different state biologically.
Vibrationally.
Like your mind, vibrationally, because it's such a low vibrating frequency, I would venture to say it's one of the lowest.
Well, there's 2 overall emotions and energies, and that is love and fear, and everything else is a secondary emotion under those. And is it fear driven or is it love driven? And I didn't mean to cut you off if you were,
No, that's fine. What did Yoda say about fear? He said, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Amen.
So in a simple way, fear leads to suffering.
In a nutshell.
In one way or the other. And fear, like I said, can unravel all of that work you're trying to do to manifest or to attract something to you. Just like simple terms, like in the movie, what movie was that? Inside Out? No,
Onward.
Not Inside Out. Onward.
That's one of my favorite movies. It's so good. Are you going to talk about the trust bridge?
No, you can. I'll let you.
Okay.
It's your favorite movie.
Okay. So in the movie Onward, it's 2 brothers and they are on a quest, and they come up to this big gaping ravine and they have to get across to the other side. And the older brother, he is schooled on all the knowledge. And so he explains to his younger brother, who is the one who can essentially do magic. And he says, this is a trust bridge. And he's like, no way. He's like, I'm not just going to walk across there. There's nothing there. And his brother's like, okay, I'm going to tie a rope to you. I've got you on the rope. You just have to take steps and trust and believe that the bridge is there and the bridge will be there. And so he's got the rope. No problem. He's walking. He's happy. He's walking across air essentially, but the bridge is rendering as he goes, and all of a sudden the rope falls off. He doesn't realize that the rope falls off. He just keeps walking because he believes that he's safe. And then he realizes that the rope is gone. He looks down, the rope is gone, and he starts falling. And his brother yells, "You have to believe with every step." And it chokes me up every time. But you do. You have to believe with every step. I believe it was our good friend Jesus that said in Matthew 17:20, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed," not sure if you know how small a mustard seed is, but it's pretty small. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, "Move from here to there," and it will move.
Nothing will be impossible for you.
So, I mean, there it is. Nothing will be impossible for you. And we can have limiting beliefs. I know it's hard to overcome, especially when you've been programmed into these, you were born into certain limiting beliefs, or you have blocks due to things that have happened in life. Money, I'm just going to say money is an energy, and that is
currency.
Currency.
Ooh,
and
it's electrical currency.
It definitely, we have our own personal story that we're going to share with you, actually, to show that money need not be something that stops you from making a move. You know, you're trying to manifest that next house. You're trying to manifest that next job. You're trying to, but it requires finances that you don't have. Making the decision is what sets it into motion. Mike Dooley says, starting is a physical demonstration, the ultimate act of faith that leverages the universe and engages life's magic, because it says, I am on my way and I intend to finish. And so it's taking those steps, and then everything lines up. You don't wait for your ducks to get in a row and then you take the step and make the decision. The ducks get in a row after you say, hey, it's time. We're doing this. Then the ducks get in the row. And
you act as if it has already happened.
It's already done. And those little action steps, you get up in the morning and maybe it's not quite time. There's not something for you to fully act on. So you visualize, you sit in the visualization and you feel that elevated emotion. And then lo and behold, later on that day, somebody calls and you get that interview, and then you take that step. And then that's at the banana sandwich company. That's exciting. And that's the job that you really thought you wanted, and that you were following your excitement, and you got an interview, but then that interview didn't go well. So your expectations were that was going to go well, but then that interviewer said, you would be such a good fit at the orange factory. And then that's beyond what you could have even asked or imagined. But because you followed the trail, you were open, it happened. So let's talk about our personal story in our shop.
Okay.
Are you ready for a little magic in your day? At High Level Design Salon and Barbershop, they turn the mundane into magic. Whether you desire a custom color or highly detailed fade, Zach and Jessica can help you foster your sense of self. For booking inquiries, simply visit www.highlevel444.com. Their reviews speak for themselves. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. Cheers!
The year is 2016, right? Yeah. I was...
2016 is the year we got married. So...
Right, but I'm saying starting in 2016, I was at a barbershop.
Okay. Yep.
I was at a barbershop in Fishers, and you were in your studio in Fishers. And our plan had been to get both of us have our own studios. I was going to leave the barbershop and I was going to come do the same thing you were doing, have my own private studio, and we were kind of going to do that together.
But not together.
But not together.
Separately.
Individual separate
yeah.
studios,
Mm-hmm.
but same business model for both of us.
And we did have a 5-year plan. The thought, the vision, the goal was that we would have a space together in the future in Fishers. That was definitely down the road. And then April, it was Easter morning, I get a phone call that my studio where Zach was going to come had burned down. There was a fire, and it was in the building in the wall between my room, my studio, and another girl's. and the whole building had to end up coming down, but mine definitely got the brunt of the damage. Lost pretty much everything work-wise. And I remember going over there and sitting in my parking spot and crying. And Spirit said, I just heard, chin up, Buttercup. Grieve the loss, but there's more to come. And just start walking, start taking steps. And I was fortunate enough to be, I shared a space with a good friend that had been across the hall from me at our former shop. And it was a very small space, used to working on my own. So sharing a space was difficult. And we had gone out looking. We saw what became our shop at the corner of 116th and Lantern and Fishers. And Fishers, for those of you who don't know, is one of the top rated places to be in the nation. So to get a prime location and spot at the corner where all the happenings are, it was just like, okay, maybe we'll see. So there was an empty space in this building right at the corner, and we looked inside, and it was just like empty space.
It was just one big room. It was an office before we ended up being there.
And Zach mentioned, oh, maybe we could do something with this. And I said, no. I shot it down immediately because I said, we don't have resources for that. We don't have money. We would have to build out. It's empty equipment, all that. And I just shut it down, and I did take a picture of the number. 2 weeks later, somebody with a giant stroller and a couple kids was in our shared studio, and it was very hard to maneuver. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to thrive here. And Zach was making 50% commission, and they were trying to take even more here and there. And so it was kind of like this situation's not going to work. So I called the number. We called the number on the building and spoke with the landlord. And at that point, we found out that if we made that work together instead of renting separately, it was going to be cheaper for us to have a shop together than individually. And boom, right there, that made the decision. Like, this has to work. Like, this is going to be a better thing financially and more exciting. We can work together.
Which I love, by the way. I got so much feedback from my clients that were like, dude, are you sure you want to work with your wife? Like, they all said that when I started telling my clients that, like, hey, we're opening up our own shop. You know, I'll let you know when things get running. And they're all like, dude, are you sure you want to work with your wife? And I was like, well, I like my wife.
And we are in the same building, but we do each have our own individual studios.
Correct.
His is the barbershop and mine is the salon. And so it was like, okay, we're going to do this. And we don't know how. We don't have money in the bank. We don't have anybody to build out for us, but we're going to figure it out. So we went ahead, and he agreed to let us do what we needed to do before he started charging us rent. So we had 6 weeks before we were going to get charged rent. I was already paying booth rent. He was making commission. And so we had to get this done in a hurry. We ended up, my dad was visiting from Kentucky, and he had experience. He had built his house. And we had asked, hey, if we show you the blueprints, would you be able to tell us what to do? And he was able to do that. Him and JJ, my bonus mom, drove every weekend up for 6 weeks to help us, and never worked so hard manually, like literally sanding drywall. But so some of the miraculous things that happened within that, we needed equipment, like our shampoo bowl and our counters and cabinet space. And those run about, what were they?
It would have been roughly around $5,000 or $6,000 each.
So between $10,000 and $12,000. And, you know, we had taken out a Menards credit card, Walmart credit card, Lowe's credit card, so we could get everything we needed to build out, create the rooms. And then, you know, so the equipment, I found out, oh, it's going to be 50% interest if you want us to finance this equipment for you through a salon financing company. Well, obviously that wasn't a smart business move. So we got off the phone and I said, this just isn't how it's going to happen. And 10 minutes later, my former landlord calls and says, have you bought your equipment yet? I said, no, we're working on that. And he said, well, I've got 2 stations that were in the front studio that didn't get burned down, all they have is smoke damage. Yes, thank you.
A lot of it.
So he said, you just have to pick them up. So we go to pick those up. They're black with soot. We were told we were going to have an ozonator for the smell. We go in the next day there now. And I'm going to tell you, when we went into that building, we were in that building for 5 minutes and came out and our clothes were permeated with the smell of a burnt building. And we were fully expecting to go into our shop and it smell like smoke and have to ozonate. We go in there, it does not smell at all. We spent 8 hours cleaning and the equipment, and they were perfect. So, I mean, that was $10,000 that, you know, we didn't have to pay for that. And that was just, we were blessed with water heater. You know, we were told we were going to need a water heater after the fact, and found someone on Facebook Marketplace that actually we knew, and we explained the situation. They were only asking $100 for a 2-year-old 50-gallon water heater. And I said, we can only afford $75. And they said, done. We explained the situation and they said, done. And so we got a 2-year-old 50-gallon water heater for $75, rolling in the back of the truck. I'm sitting there getting pictures because it's the first time I've ever bought a water heater, and I'm sitting next to it. And
she was feeling herself.
And then, our drywall angel, poor Zach had been YouTubing drywall, how to do drywall. We started in his room to make sure things would go right. And
I had an air bubble from the first piece of drywall tape that I put on, and that air bubble lasted all 6 years that we were there.
So it was just, I mean, that.
The one person real quick, he didn't charge us. The one person that we hired, because we just got down to the wire and we had to get the drywall finished so that we could paint and then start working, because we were coming down to the wire. And long story short, we were referred to this guy. He found out about our story and what we were doing and what had happened to Jessica's studio, and did the job within like a day or two, and then never charged us. He said, it's on me. I love what you guys are doing. I want to help you out.
And of course I cried because I'm a Pisces and I'm a water sign and I cry easily.
She's a double Pisces.
Yes, which means my sun and my moon were in Pisces when I was born.
And she was born at 12/12.
And Pisces is the 12th zodiac. So I don't know. I don't.
And Pisces and Jesus, you know, the fish. Man, Jessica's a very special human being.
Okay. Okay. So it was just he was our drywall angel, and that would have taken us another week to finish. And we were at the very end of our 6 weeks, about to having to pay again. And Zach hadn't been working because he was working on our build out. So it was just all miracle after miracle lining up to help us, because we made the decision we were going to do it. We took the step. We didn't hold fear about the money. We knew that this was going to happen because it had to happen. And 6 weeks later, we opened a beautiful shop, and it continued to evolve. We were there for 6 years.
And we became the top rated salon and barbershop in Fishers.
Yeah, 5-star reviews across the board.
And we continue to hold that.
Indeed, but now it's in Pendleton.
Mm-hmm. But let me just quick reminder about all of that. We did not have the money to do that, because I know money and finances are such a huge block for so many people for obvious reasons, us included. There's been plenty of times where we're just like, you start worrying about the money. And I just want to reiterate, we did not have the money for this, and we were able to make it work. Yes, we had to take out a few credit cards and such, but outside of that, we didn't have the money, and it was just blessing after blessing after blessing.
And in the end, we were able to consolidate all of those credit cards into one loan so that it made it much less stressful. And, you know, we also, in our new space, we ended up finding out, okay, your next 3 to 5 year plan where you have your shop on your property, that became a 1-year plan. We moved to a spot we were renting because we knew in the future we were going to be doing this plan, and we spoke it into existence. And I want to remind you, there's power in the spoken word. So just a quick little interjection. When you are commenting, I'm broke, you will be broke. There is power in what you speak. We were speaking this for a few years, and we get to the point where, okay, we found the property. We were told you're going to have to move. We did not expect it to be, we'd only been in our house for less than 6 months, and we find out we're going to have to move our shop because they were going to be tearing down and building apartments. And so we move forward, find the house. We're going to, what's the word? When you convert. I can never remember that word, convert. We converted our 3-car garage to our salon and barbershop. That was the plan. We were in the process of getting the house. So we were 1 week, 7 days out from closing, and the lender calls and says, you guys are going to have to put 5% more down on your property. And that equated to $17,000. And we were already, with closing costs and the build out and everything, we were already pretty wiped. So they wanted us to bring $17,000 more in 7 days. And we were just like, that's just not going to happen. So figure it out. And Zach and I came together, we prayed about it, and we knew that something was working behind the scenes. We weren't going to stress about it. We weren't going to worry that, where are we going to find this? And I mean, don't get me wrong. Initially there was a reaction and it was something is happening behind the scenes. We're not going to get this far, and it's going to fall through because of money when we've done everything right up to this point. So we had loan money set aside for our build out, for our shop build out. So we knew at the very least that, okay, we had that. Our lady calls us back and she says, if you can bring $10,000 to the table, it will go towards your down payment instead of closing costs. More will go towards your down payment, less will go towards your closing costs. You will save an point in interest, saving you $200 a month in interest if you can not be afraid of the money, essentially. And we ended up, we said, okay, well, we have this loan money. We don't know where we'll get our shop build out money if we use this, but we know it'll come. We know it's going to work out. We believed with every step. And so we signed for the 10 grand extra. Not even 24 hours. The next morning, I go into work. I'm talking with a longtime client, 17-year about client. And I'm telling her, yeah, they want me to pull 10 grand out of my ass in 7 days. And she just says, I'll loan you the money. Of course, I started crying at first. And I was like, are you serious? And that was not ever an expectation, nor would I have we would have never approached anyone that we knew and asked for a loan like that. And she just offered. And she said, well, I have to talk to my husband, but I'll loan you the money. She also did that for a flat rate, a flat fee instead of an interest rate, and held off our payments until we were able to start after the build out and so I'm telling you, we've seen it time and time again, that if you have the intense, that I'm feeling intense, apologies.
If you have the intention,
The focused intention, the elevated emotion,
excitement, follow your
the
excitement.
decision, that these things will start to take shape in your life. Try it with something simple. You may say, well, I don't even know what I want. Then it's time to go inward and connect your head and your heart so that you can begin to sink into yourself and hear those things and hear that still small voice and that guidance. And you'll start to feel your heart space open up. And when I say go in, just close your eyes for a minute and take a deep breath in. And then when you exhale, release that breath into your heart and acknowledge your heart space, and you will feel it. And then you just begin to connect, because the mind is a computer. If you are not consciously choosing what's going in, it is being programmed for you. The heart is what gives us the direction. The mind only takes commands and spews out, what it's been given. So those thoughts, they're becoming things.
I was going to say, you brought up the heart. Proverbs 23:7. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Just came to mind when you said that. So yet another wonderful example.
And I believe it was Henry Ford that said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Because ultimately our beliefs, actually the Course in Miracles says, when you believe something, you have made it true for yourself. So, just again, addressing those beliefs, whether that be a limiting belief or something you've carried with you your whole life. We're here to evolve and change and grow. And so if some of your beliefs start to take different shapes, that's okay. So we'd like to talk a little bit about some kind of myths.
Some misconceptions, myths about manifestation. Over the years, speaking to, people, but definitely in this instance, clients, I've heard a lot of the same questions, a lot of the same mindset towards, or I guess viewpoint on manifestation. And some of the more common ones would be, something like, well, manifestation, that's just wishful thinking. Like, what's that going to get you? But as we've learned thus far, manifestation is much more than just wishful thinking. It involves, faith, beliefs, emotions, elevated emotions, and actions. Yet another Bible verse says that faith without works is dead. So you can't just wish for something to happen. You can't just, that's just part of it. You have to also put action into it. Like we were saying earlier, you have to start putting that first foot forward. Taking that first step is typically the hardest step for most people in anything that they're trying to do or accomplish. And even with us, with this podcast, it was, just doing it, like we prepared a lot and everything, but just doing it. And then everything else starts to fall into place. So it's not just wishful thinking. It doesn't mean that you're ignoring your problems. In fact, if you're doing it properly, then you're focusing on solutions while simultaneously addressing the challenges. So there's just a lot of different misconceptions about this, and that, it works instantly. That's one, where more times than not, that's not the case. but it can be. Nothing is impossible, but typically it's not instant. So no, you can't go into it with the mindset of, I'm going to think about this thing and it's just going to magically appear right in front of me.
Right, there's a lot of
Sorry, we don't live we're still in the third dimension here, so we don't necessarily have all of those.
But I will say, the more you put it into practice,
the quicker it will happen.
The quicker it can move things, because the more you practice it, the more you believe and the more you understand, oh, this is going to happen. Because he mentioned the podcast. We were talking about doing this, ended up talking with a friend, and she happens to have equipment. And, we don't have to worry about what kind of equipment to go rush out and buy. And it's like we said that we're going to do this, and all the things, all the resources started coming to us, because you don't chase, you attract. And I think another misconception is that you have to be positive all the time. And yes, we should focus on a silver lining in all circumstances. And I said earlier, sometimes blessings look like bullshit. You're like, this looks terrible. But then in the end, you realize hindsight's 20/20, and you see how that brought you around to something that was actually a blessing. But you can't possibly be positive all the time. You're going to have emotions that you have to feel through, but you just can't stay there. And when you realize you're having these moments and you're feeling lower and you might be spiraling, take that time, but then focus on shifting. Do the things that help you raise your vibration.
Negativity doesn't automatically cancel manifestation,
right?
Either. So there's times, none of us are perfect, and there's going to be times where you get down about something, or you get upset about something, or what have you, and you start feeling some of those negative emotions. You're angry, you're frustrated, you're whatever. That does not cancel manifestation. You just can't stay in that space. You can't stay in that mindset. You feel your feelings, and then you get past it. You get back to the proper positive thoughts, positive emotions, and get back to manifesting. And
often people think that, only spiritual people, only, people like Jesus can manifest and can create their reality. But everyone has the ability and the power to co-create, and it is just it's the facts that we are attracting, that like attracts like. We're all spiritual beings.
This is innate for all of us. We were all born with these abilities. We were all born with, according to our friend Jesus, we have all the same gifts and powers that he does.
He said,
Didn't he say? What did he say?
You will have authority to do these things and greater.
Yeah, so to me, that's pretty simple. That means we have innate abilities. We are just so unaware of them in society today, which I think is done on purpose, to keep us vibrating low, because, the people in power, you can call them whatever you want, but they all know these things. They all know the law of manifestation, law of attraction, manifestation, karma, all of these universal truths and laws. They know that these things are real and that they have an actual effect on physical reality. And a lot of times it's used against us.
Promoting fear and anxiety and depression and
all these
low vibrating things.
Root chakra.
That keep you distracted from creating.
Keep you distracted from the important things. And if they can keep a population in fear, they can control them however they want, because you're never going to get past that fear point and be able to manifest and be able to live your best life. Because when you're living your best life, you're vibrating high, and then that starts to have a multiplying effect to where more and more people start doing it. And then you get into the 100th monkey effect, where when enough people get to a certain point, it starts just changing on a massive scale. And I feel like that's kind of where we're heading as a society at this point. Don't want to go too far into that, but I do feel like we're heading in that direction where more and more people are realizing these things. People like us and all other kinds of people doing podcasts and doing workshops and what have you.
Sharing the truth.
Sharing the knowledge.
Sharing, because the more you know, and knowledge is power. And none
Yes.
of, like, we would just like to say a disclaimer that anything we say, we're not evangelizing to you. This is what's worked for us. This is some principles that, as we've done digging and we've been on our journeys, that we've come across, and it's just time after time after time we see it in action, and we see it in our lives, and we see the positive effect it has on others around us. And the more that we come in alignment with who we really are and what we are here to create for ourselves and others, the higher the vibe rises, like you talked about earlier, of just the collective, of the collective. And we're here to serve each other. And the more that we're focused on love and that energy, overall energy, instead of the fear, where attention goes, energy flows. We'll just, I think, as we said, the in a nutshell, your thoughts become things. So when you recognize you might be on a path that's not taking you where you want to go, or you look around your life and you're not liking what you're seeing, what can you begin to start intentionally drawing into your life? And you'll start to see synchronicities, and you'll start to see things that, oh, this happened. And, oh, I was thinking about this kind of car, and now I see it all over the place. And that's a synchronicity.
When you start seeing synchronicities, also that's a sign that you're on the right path. That's a sign from God, from the universe, that you're doing the right thing. And to add to that, if you ever find yourself starting to see different number patterns and such, that's also a sign typically that, like, you're doing the right thing
like
right now.
11,
Sometimes
11,
it can be
111,
12, 12, 222, 333. Our website is highlevel444.com.
They each resonate with different things.
They do, and they mean different things, but overall, if you're ever wondering, a lot of times you'll start to see those more often the more that you manifest, and you'll start to see more synchronicities just happen. That means you're doing it right. You're doing it right. It's pretty simple. So I think before we start wrapping up, just one simple thing that I would suggest for all of you that is a practical thing for you to do: vision boards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go too deep into it. I know we've already been talking for a little bit. But very simply put, a vision board is exactly what it sounds like. It is a poster board of some sort, and you essentially just put anything and everything that you want to manifest in your life. And that is anything: trips, cars, jobs,
Ways of being.
a partner, ways of being, your health, a certain amount of money you want to make at work. There's whatever it is, you can put that on this board and put it somewhere conspicuous where you're going to see it every single day, because our minds pick up on so many other things that you don't even realize it's picking up on. So put it somewhere where you're going to see it, on your dresser, somewhere in your bathroom where you're going to see it every day. And you'll be, I think, pleasantly surprised when you start to see some of those things actually coming to fruition. We've been doing them ourselves collectively since 2014, I think.
2014.
For 11 years, and the amount of times that we've written stuff on there.
It's funny.
And it's pretty crazy.
So our particular board, the left side's my side, the right side's Zach's, and then the middle is our collective and kind of family. And my side of the board is pictures and words and all of the, glitter, and Zach's is like 7 words and, just blocky It's just funny, the juxtaposition of the male and the female, and that you can just see the way the brain is wired via vision board.
I'm a simple man.
And
Leonard Skinner told you to be a simple man.
So yeah, absolutely. Vision boards, it's a way to focus your energy and intention. It's on a, something, it's out into, you've put it out in the universe, and that could be one of your action steps. And if you don't want to do a vision board, write down a journal and write down all the aspects that you want in that job.
Write it down and make it plain.
And be specific.
The more specific you are, the better it's going to be.
And then don't get hung up don't be attached to the outcomes, so because we do have to allow room that there is something greater, that sometimes we don't know all the variables, but life is happening for you, not to you. And so with that, I think we would like you, if you have had any instances where after listening to this episode, you're like, I manifested something, or that you manifested something in your life, big or small.
Celebrate the small wins, guys. It's not always going to be big wins.
Absolutely.
Always be
grateful.
Being grateful. Gratitude is also huge in all of this. Be grateful for even the little wins. Just side note there.
And so shoot us an email. You can find that again at our website, highlevel444.com. And we would love to hear from you. We will read those on our next episode, a couple of those. And, if there's something that, even if you think, is this something, or you have any questions, we've only scratched the surface of the information that's out there regarding this. So if anybody wants to dive a little deeper, we do have a list of resources on our website under the High Level Heresy podcast tab.
Man, I can't wait to keep going on this journey. This is fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, and we can't wait to grow with you.
And before we go, I do want to remind you guys, please subscribe and share this all around. We really want to raise the vibe of the planet, and the more people that hear these messages, the more that we can do that. You can also find us at www.highlevel444.com if you'd like to get in contact with us. If you want to see anything about our business, our salon and barbershop, you can also find all that information there.
And we would like to thank Rachel Downey of Share Your Genius. She helped us, she encouraged us and empowered us to take the steps to create this podcast, and just helped us on our journey and kind of held our hand in the beginning and gave of her time and her talent and her treasure. And if anybody has anything that they would like to create, you can visit her website at shareyourgenius.com.
And with that,
we leave you in the light and the love of the one infinite Creator.
May the Force be with you.
And also with you.
High level heresy.
That wasn't right.
America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shine.